Nicole Strickland. I have been fascinated with the unknown and paranormal realms since childhood. After a profound experience with my grandmother's spirit 20 years ago, I have been on a quest to observe, study, investigate, and communicate with the afterlife and beyond. It's been an ongoing journey of exploration and discovery, one that has taught me how mortality and the spirit world are forever bonded through the veils of time. Good evening, folks. Happy Thursday. June is almost over, and we are now segueing into July in a couple of days. Welcome to another awesome night here on WLTK-DB.com. Of course, this is the Afterlife Chronicles, another night of exploring the connection between life, death, and beyond. We have a fantastic guest planned for you tonight. Of course, I'm your host, Nicole Strickland. You can follow us here right on the website. Like I said, WLTK-DB.com. Anywhere with that handle, WLTK-DB, will lead you to Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. Of course, you can follow the show's Podbean page at afterlifechronicles.podbean.com. Okay, so before I bring in tonight's guest, it's going to be an amazing episode. Kelly Brickel, she's truly amazing, has a lot of knowledge and a lot of different topics. So very looking forward to talking with her. But I do want to recap Realm of Darkness, the show that aired, of course, right before this one. If you missed the show, it will be archived for you. Of course, Rini Rodriguez and Ashley Moreno host the show, and they were discussing very interesting discussion about kind of opinions on what makes children murder, which is kind of obviously a very deep topic. So I enjoyed the show. Again, it's archived for you if you missed it. So, okay, San Diego had a bit of a surprise on Monday night around 10 p.m. Pretty much half the city noticed lights, very odd lights off the coast of the Pacific Ocean here. So the San Diego Police Department said, you know what, we can confirm that those were flares due to a military exercise. However, the military came out and said, well, we don't really know what those lights were. And then now, just last night, the news broke that actually the Coast Guard did confirm that they were indeed flares that were dropped from a Navy C-130 plane off the coast of San Clemente. So they confirmed that. But, you know, my line of curiosity still wonders, are they downplaying it? Was it really UFO activity? I don't know. I didn't see the lights. I watched the video. The lights don't behave like flares, but hey, what do I know? So interesting thing on Monday night. And then, of course, we just got a brand new historical case, the San Diego Paranormal Research Society, a big historical case down in downtown San Diego. So we'll be starting that pretty soon. More details to emerge when I have them. So let's see what else. It's already 3 minutes past. We have a lot to talk to tonight. I can't even talk. Hello. Two wires aren't connecting there. Let's start over, shall we? Let's bring Kelly Brickel right in. Kelly, how are you? Are you on mute? I think she's on mute.
Oh, yes. Hey,
yeah, there you
my
go.
wires weren't connecting for a second.
I know. See, I'm the one. I see you're following my energy. See, I made you screw. No,
I can be like that too.
I know, right? I need some water. My goodness.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That is so neat. Some of the things that you mentioned, like the missile testing. I have to double check that video that I saw because I randomly saw something. I didn't look much into it, and the picture, I believe, I don't know if it was an old picture. I don't know if it was a new picture, but it looks like the previous missile testing that went off like around LA that people were buzzing about.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
But I don't know. I don't know.
Of course, I'm inland, so I'm in an area called Tirasana. So I'm like 10 minutes from the ocean. So I didn't see them, but I watched the video and they are odd. And what's interesting is Imperial Beach, I guess they canceled the fireworks display at the last minute, and now they're going to have this big drone show out there. So I think that's kind of a little odd right after all of the reports about the lights. I mean, I don't know what to make of it, but, you know, interesting things. I mean, I've seen, UFOs here in San Diego before with my own eyes. With us being such a military city, it's not a surprise. LA too. So thought I'd mention that. Just everyone was talking about it on social media and all of that. So, but anyways, it's so good to have you. You're so multifaceted. You're a psychic medium. You're a healer. You're a numerologist. You have so much to offer. So thank you for joining me tonight.
Absolutely. It's my honor to be on your show. Like, you're very
Yeah.
multifaceted yourself. So I'm
Oh,
excited to talk to you.
thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So let's start out with your journey, with you knowing about your psychic and intuitive senses and how that all came to be for you.
Sure. Oh gosh, I could go in so many directions,
The
right?
mic is yours.
Oh my gosh. All right. Just lead me and guide me through this. So I guess when I was a kid, I didn't know I was like psychic, or I didn't know I had mediumship abilities. And it wasn't until I was a teenager where I really started to have a lot of self-reflection time, alone time. Um, Growing up when I was a teenager, I went through a lot of like sleeping issues, which caused me to miss a lot of school. It wasn't on purpose, let me tell you.
No, I can
Sometimes.
imagine.
Right, yeah, like, it wasn't just like, "I stayed up late, I can't go to school." No, it was just unfortunately, I couldn't go to sleep so consistently, it really affected my health, so it was actually tremendously stressful, very anxiety, ridden, like, perplexing, and so I had a lot of time to go, "What's going on with my body?" I don't know what's going on, and I was just so kind of alert at night, and I would just like kind of pick up things, and I really did think it was like my imagination, so I just started meditating and praying a lot and reading books, and then I started to realize that other people were having experiences that I was having, and what was going on is I was just becoming way more sensitive around like my puberty. I just started becoming very, very more in tuned, empathic, and just kind of hyper alert with energies, and it just kept opening up the more I went into becoming a teenager. So I would say it started around like 14 14, maybe a little earlier, but definitely like 14, like 15. And then I started really investigating, hey, what's going on around 16? And it just, it wasn't like, oh, I know what's happening. It took many years to kind of understand, like, oh, I'm a really sensitive person. I'm getting these experiences. What are they? Decoding like the truth, checking in with like my own just like mental health on things, and it wasn't ever I was scared. I was just always very careful and perceptive. And I like to understand things. I always have been one to kind of research and understand. And I sometimes, more so, I'm very much an open book. I really am. But more so in the past, I wouldn't talk about things unless I really understood them, because I didn't want anyone to think that I just was saying whatever. And that is very much how I felt about with my mediumship and psychic experiences when I was younger. I was very safeguarded about it. I didn't share it a lot. And a lot of people who grew up with me didn't know that I had some of these experiences, and I didn't really share them until I was like really in my early 20s, and still it wasn't something I freely talked about. Now I do. So when I was a kid, looking back on things, just to give you some perspective, um, I was very psychically connected to other people. Like, I remember as a kid, um, just naturally, it's like I knew everyone's name in the school. We had a lot of people in the school. I knew like all the teachers' names, even teachers that I didn't have. Like, I love to learn everybody's names. I love to learn about people. I had always been super curious about people, and I'd always like feel into the energy of people. So I'd know when someone's having a bad day, like my teacher or not, just someone walking past me. I would feel their emotional state. I'd feel what type of person they were. Same with fellow students and friends. I just had a really good understanding of emotionally always where somebody was. And so sometimes I, avoided a lot of problems because of that. So as a kid, a lot of psychic experiences for sure that I always just rationalized as really caring about people. You know what I mean? But
Right,
there was
right.
a lot more at play going on, even though I genuinely do care about people. And it wasn't until my teenage years that I started having actual mediumship experiences that I could more so define. I do think I had some as a child. I just don't really clearly remember much. I could go into some things, but yeah, just to give you some feedback, much more stronger experiences psychically as a child.
That's an amazing pattern, recognizing even as young as you were, having these experiences and then reflecting on them. And then just in hearing you, I'm hearing that you just allowed it to flow as it was supposed to almost. That's kind of like what I'm hearing from you. And I mean, it's truly amazing, with the sleep issues. I'm wondering if that may have been correlated to your psychic senses opening up in even more. I'm wondering
Yeah,
if there's maybe a connection with that, or anything, like even with your dreams during that time, if you noticed any more like lucid types of dreaming or things like that.
absolutely. For I think children and adults who are sensitive, things become very quiet at night, and if you're already hyper alert or you're very attuned to your environments, or energy at night, everything quiets down and you can pay
Hmm.
attention even better. So it's like you're re-stimulated. So a lot of psychic kids, mediumship gifted kids, usually do have a very hard time going to sleep at night. It's because they can more easily pay attention to the spirit world because their normal day isn't getting in the way.
Right. That absolutely makes sense. I want to just say hi to Linda. Nice to see you there. And then, of course, Tony, nice to see you as well there. And you, with all of this, you offer all kinds of different classes on psychic mediumship, numerology, all of that. What types? So, just talking about the psychic end of it, what types of classes do you offer, and how can people go about registering to take a course with you?
For sure, absolutely. Freshly, what's up? I have a numerology class that I'm teaching. That's a modality of using your psychic gifts. You know, just like you use cards or astrology, it's a way to tap into people's life paths, information about them. It's a system of energy reading. So I have a numerology, a 2 week numerology readings class, and it's unique. And I'm blessed to do it because not only do we go over the foundations of numerology, but we also have a chance to actually read others with numerology. And not a lot of classes offer that. So if you want to actually practice with other people and actually learn how to do it in the moment and how to give readings, it's a wonderful class to you. Also, I have coming up a clairvoyance training class that's in October. And that one's super fun. I'm definitely, with the way that I read, predominantly clairvoyant, I would say. Some weeks it changes, but for the majority, I'm very clairvoyant, and I have a lot of connection to seeing things. And I actually teach others how to open up that center with practices, with history on what clairvoyance is, and mediums who have done that, and just, practical application. So it's a really fun class. And that's 3 weeks.
That's so cool. Yeah, I was just on your website today. It's a really great website, all kinds of wonderful information on there. So you talked too on there. I read something you mentioned, the importance of mind, body, and spirit, the spiritual side, the mental side, and the emotional spheres. So for someone who is maybe just learning about psychic mediumship or psychic senses, and maybe is not yet aware of the importance of that mind, body, and spirit. I'm sure your classes obviously cater to, the spiritual side, the mental side, and the emotional spheres of people's energy. So, like, if someone were to like ask you, okay, so I want to take a class, but I'm really unsure on the connection between mind, body, and spirit. What would you say to that person on the
Sure.
importance of all connecting all of.
Sure. So everybody needs something different within their life. For the people who are curious, but they, let's say, don't know the connection within themselves, sometimes I offer like mentoring. So it can be very individually catered for how that person wants to discover that answer for themselves. Meditation, a lot of times, helps answer that question, honestly. When you start meditating and you start quieting your mind, you start to understand there's other aspects of you that come forward when you just slow things down. Your emotional body rises, your mental body rises, and also you have these memories or feelings and impressions that seem much larger than just yourself, the way that you consciously are experiencing it. And that's when you start to really open up the soul and the spiritual part of you. And you really have to experience that. There's one way to explain it, but someone has to really experience it and go, aha, there's something that is pulling me. I want to learn more, or okay, I understand what this can mean. It has to be something within the person that they want to explore, because it is very experiential. I can explain it, of course, but it's very experiential, like what the spirit and the soul is to a person. Absolutely. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that
like,
that's go ahead, sorry.
oh, no, 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 it's okay. I was going to say, yes, within this work, everything is touched. And because a spiritual life is a full bodied life, and you have to look at your emotional, mental, you have to take care of your physical body, and it all goes together to live a spiritual life. And that's why they're all acknowledged.
Absolutely, and I think even modern medicine now is starting to grasp onto that. I'm going to say it's a fact because I feel it is that, the mind and the body and our spirit, they're all connected. And I like how you say it's something to be experienced because, like you said, you can just explain it over and over, but it's having that epiphany, that aha moment, that experience where there's a balance between all three, and it's once you experience that then you know what to look for. So, okay, let's get into chakras too, because I think in the whole in this realm of discussing, the connection between mind, body, and spirit, the chakras play into this hugely. So, for people that may be listening that don't really know, okay, wait, what's a chakra? What's that? I've never heard of that. Can you explain what they are and how they all fit into this?
Okay, that is like an in-depth discussion for sure. So like chakras, they mean spinning discs or spinning wheels, and they're connected to Vedic philosophy. Actually, like rishis developed our understanding about the chakra system. So if you're ever curious about Vedic knowledge and the energy systems of the body, definitely look into like Sanskrit scripture, and look into more of the Indian philosophy of how energy works. So you'll get into like doshas and koshas, and koshas are like the aura, right? And chakras are just energy centers in the body, like big
Right.
major energy centers in the body. So Vedic philosophers really mapped out the energetic body, and they created this map for us to understand about what certain regions represent spiritually, emotionally within the body. And if there's energy stuck or if it's flowing, it indicates certain behaviors within the individual with how their body is interacting with the world. Um, so, for instance, chakras are linked up not only to our spiritual existence, but they're linked up to our thoughts, our emotions, and also our organs. So our physical health is all. So we were talking about mind, body, spirit, that connection. Like the chakras and your aura, it's all connected to that with energetic philosophy. So there's the physical anatomy, and then there's actually like chakra anatomy and aura anatomy of what people believe, and they use that wisdom to help others navigate their energy. And it's not just a philosophy of, oh, here's an idea of what this could mean. When you speak and work within this philosophy, there's a lot of accuracy, there's a lot of backed up consistency. The reason why they made it is because once you really understand how chakras and auras work, and you have some flexibility with experience, um, it's kind of like numerology. It's kind of like, here's a system. All right, I've observed this of the system, and you can relate to this. And the person will go, yes, I can relate to this. Because if you have an imbalance in the heart chakra, you're going to be dealing with like sadness or anger or loss. If you have an imbalance in your knees, you're going to be more
Mm-hmm.
stubborn, or you're not going to be as flexible. If you have an imbalance in the feet, that deals with fear a lot. So there's like these storehouses of energy, and if someone's imbalanced or balanced, they exhibit usually certain behaviors that are very close to universal. There's more specifics, of course, but chakras are so important to learn about if you want to learn about Reiki or psychic readings. They're very, very helpful. So I can go into it further, but that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, I know this is very in depth. And what I like about you is how, because there's a connection between all of these, psychic mediumship, Reiki, chakra balancing and cleansing and numerology. They all kind of fit and they all kind of work with each other. So, kind of having an understanding of them individually and then how they work with, all the other components as well, I think is important. So, Linda's asking here, what does Kelly think of, I want to, is it Chaldean numerology? Is that how you pronounce that? I'll do it
I've
again. Yeah.
neve heard of it. I don't know if it's Caladian or
Is it
Chalian.
Cladian? Yeah, it might be Cladian. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're saying it.
It, it,
I've seen
I
the
don't.
word, but I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if I've seen. I'm gonna have to look it up. So there's different systems of Reiki. There's different systems of numerology, and some are regional, and some are definitely inspired, and have foundations on Western or Eastern numerology. So like there's these very big systems of numerology that like precede us hundreds of years ago. And
Right.
so let's say if it's Chaldean or Cladian, it's going to be connected to another system usually. I'm not familiar with it, but just to give you an idea, like Western numerology uses different principles than Eastern numerology. So it's not just because it's numerology does it use the same rules
Right.
from system to next system. Actually, they're vastly different. Like a three in like Eastern numerology is very different than a three in Western numerology, and so on and so forth. As long as you have a system that leads to accuracy, you're fine. So I'll look into it. I appreciate you putting that down.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen the word. I'm not too familiar, with it either. I don't know if Linda, if you're still listening, if you want to, jot down, maybe a definition of what
Yeah.
that is, and we can expand on it if you want. But I've seen the word, but I haven't, obviously read up on it. But, there's a feeling you get when you know that your chakras are open, and it's one of those things. At least for me, it's hard to put in words. It's hard to describe it, but when it happens, you know that there's something that's clearing there. So are you seeing, like, with people that are taking your classes and coming to you for advice, are you seeing more of certain types of chakras need more balancing nowadays, especially in the last 2 years, like with the pandemic and all the challenges going on? Are you seeing changes in that, or is it just pretty much how it's always been?
That's cool. So definitely that question would be connected to like my energy healing practice, because with like a psychic reading, I'll tune into the person's experience, but I'm not, let's say, so conscious about, oh, this is what's going on in the body. I kind of just go, oh, I'm here, I talk about it, and then sometimes I'll forget unless you remind me, because it's almost like when you're reading you're kind of in this different state, right? But and it can be like that in energy healing too. Within energy healing though, my mind usually likes to kind of, it's just the way my mind is, like it can be very cerebral, logical at times.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tune in, I go, oh, okay, and I'll have more recollection of what someone's chakras are doing, right? Because I have to usually talk to them about it after the session. Like, hey, this is how your energy was, and this is what I observed. So that's why it's more remembered. Um, I think when someone finds a healer, they're connected to their energy, they gravitate to them for a reason, sometimes one they don't know. And every healer has a talent or a speciality with energy that they work with more easily. sometimes they don't even know that within themselves, but they might find like, wow, I've been getting a lot of people that have a throat chakra blockage, or like, wow, every time someone comes to me, like I really have to work on the roots. And it's that's the energy that they are attracting, that either the healer has to learn about themselves in, and life is finding a way for them to open up that energy, because healing needs to be accessed not only for the individual but for the healer itself, or because the healer is actually a leader of the energy and they've transcended a certain lesson where they can then offer that to other people. So I really do think that there is a strong correlation with the individual healer of what the healer needs to understand and work on, and also what the healer is a leader in. So there's that. The more I guess since I guess 2020, 2012 and the pandemic, there's been a lot more emphasis on the upper chakras of people. Usually, I guess people had imbalances, I would say, from their past, largely more so in their lower chakras. But I noticed that people are more energy sensitive now, and they have much more, I guess, blockages or stress in their upper chakras. That's not 100% because some people have always been like that, but I do notice the more aware and open and sensitive people are becoming, the more that they do have excess energy in their crown and even in their heart, and not just a personal life way, like an empathetic way, like they're picking up other people's energies. That's like people are just becoming more empathetic. So their energy load that they're taking on is more, and they're using their upper chakras more. That's something I've kind of noticed. Um, yeah,
That makes
but
sense. That makes sense.
yeah, but I think usually the people who come to a Reiki healer are kind of ahead of the curve, but now it's becoming more normalized. So I think the vast majority you're seeing that.
Yeah, yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And Linda just I'll just flash this too. She said, "Thank you. It seems confusing when there are different systems. I agree that you need to work with the system that does resonate or resonates," is what she said. That's true.
Absolutely.
Just this is all like so fascinating. And so numerology, I think, is one of those topics that a lot of people are interested in, may know a little bit, want to get more into it, but don't really know how. So if someone were to like come to you, I guess for a numerology, and I know how in depth this is, but if someone wanted to come to you for like, to learn about their own charts, numerical charts and numerology, like what would that process be?
Sure. So, when people come for a numerology reading, sometimes they just want to be read. They're just like, I
Right.
want to be read. I want to hear a little bit about my numbers, and it's kind of more like a traditional reading. It just happens that I'm using numerology largely, right? And then there's other people who know more about numerology, and they're like, I want to know more about my numbers. I want to
Right.
learn about calculations I've never heard about, or I want to know a more in depth take on my life path number. So I do notice that some people are just like, read me, and other people are like, I want to know about this more, right? And so for people who are more in depth and they want more a numerology reading with analysis, you do a chart reading. And then for people who are just kind of curious to be read, um, the the reader is going to be using their birthday and their name to go into different calculations, and they just kind of away they go, right? And everyone has a different way of doing it. And Linda, like for instance, even within Western numerology, the one that I use, there's other people who use Western numerology that have different rules within their numerology. Like, how can I put that? I use Pythagorean numerology, and I know a lot of ways that it's being taught where the rules that they use are not the rules that I use. Does that make sense? So it's
Right.
it's really all over the map, and your job as a numerologist is just to find the most accurate rule you can, so you can help your client the best you can as you're doing it. That's all.
That is so fast. I mean, it's just it's so fascinating. I mean, I've actually never had mine done. And so I'm like sitting here like, I'm kind of like, curious as to, what would be discovered with it. So, and then what about us? Does astrology fit in with numerology? Are they connected at all? Or I mean, I don't know if it's more of an opinion as to whether they are, or do you bring that in with numerology, astrology, or do you think they should be kept separate?
It's a great question. So, it really depends on the reader. So, for instance, in
Okay.
Vedic astrology, they use both. Like in Vedic astrology, like numerology is looked at with the astrology, and numerology is heavily considered. So they really go hand in hand. With like Western numerology, they're not going to be concerned about astrology per se unless the reader is like, I feel like this helps give me more clarity. So, for instance, if someone gave me their astrology chart and their numerology chart, I could just look at both and just know more about them. But for an actual numerology, just standalone reading, with Western, you don't you don't even consider astrology unless you're curious about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's different rules involved too in both.
Of
Exactly.
course, yeah, that's why I asked it because it completely makes sense. Hi, Joanna, nice to see you there. And then, of course, this is interesting. Linda says, I love numerology and you even bought my current home based on it. What?
Yep.
That's awesome, Linda. Thank you for
Absolutely.
sharing that. Oh my goodness. So on
That.
that note, oh, go ahead. Were you going to say? I'm sorry,
No, no,
Carol.
no,
Were you
no.
going
Go ahead. Go
to
ahead.
totally interrupt you? Like, let's go to break.
No,
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 no.
no.
Seriously. On that note, let's take our only break. Of course, you're tuning into the Afterlife Chronicles. Kelly Brickel is tonight's host, guest. I'm the
Guys,
host. And you know what? Two wires aren't connecting, or more than two. I don't know. It's hot up here. But anyways, we'll take a break and stay. We'll be right back, guys.
love it.
'Brandon Wainwright, author of Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide, and owner of Tyson's Gift Healing Arts, offers Reiki as well as color and sound modalities to anyone seeking physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual healing. While color and sound healing, a technique that brings balance and health to one's chakras and body, must be provided in person. Reiki, a Japanese form of energy healing, can be given in person or equally effectively from a distance. For more information or to make an appointment for a session, please visit TysonsGiftHealing.com. That's TysonsGiftHealing.com.
33 minutes past the hour. Of course, you're tuning right back into the Afterlife Chronicles here for our second half hour, or second part of the show, I should say. Tonight's lovely guest is Kelly Brickel. She is a multifaceted psychic medium, a healer, numerologist, you name it. Uh, Fascinating discussion we had. If you missed the first half hour, don't worry, it will be archived for you. We were talking a little bit about, psychic mediumship and numerology and chakra cleansing and balancing and all of that. And there's so many with you, Kelly. There's so many topics that you're so well known on. And like I said earlier, it's like it's nice to have a little understanding of each of these, but then how they all fit together as a whole, which is kind of like basically what we're talking about tonight. So one question I wanted to ask you is, and I should have asked you before, but I just remembered now. Okay, with past life regression, have you found that the people that have maybe had successful past life regression, have you found that their chakras are more balanced than other people that may not know anything about their past lives? I was just curious on your opinion on that.
Sure. So I've never facilitated past life regression. I've been a participant in past life regression, and I
Right, me
definitely
too.
feel like your energy is opened up Absolutely. I do feel like the way that your aura is shaped and the way that you connect with your energy is different afterwards. Like, because consciousness is connected to how we use our aura and our chakras. So, absolutely, there will be a
Absolutely.
change because I'm going to say that word changed again. Like, you're forever changed. If you've had a pivotal and important past life regression, your identity changes because you just remember who you are. And if you have a certain relationship with who you are, you act different, you operate differently.
Right.
Something kind of interesting to, I think, that would answer your question in a slightly different way is, so one time I had a student who had an aura machine, and she came in with it and she's like, let's play around with this. I'm like, yeah, let's do it, right? And it was so cool because we were doing the aura reading. So it was like taking an image of the shape of your aura, kind of. It was mostly like the colors and the color placements, and that would take actually the size of your chakras, like the amount of energy emitting from your chakra center. So like the it almost looks like a ball of light,
Oh,
but the energy
wow.
would be either like bigger or smaller in each region, depending on just the individual, right? And the colors would be different too. So um the one thing that I really thought was cool about that experience that was consistent, because she came with the machine for more than one day.
That
So
is
we
so
actually,
cool.
yeah, we did like multiple little tests with it. That when I did Reiki, so I would do Reiki for like maybe sometimes 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But when I got like a good Reiki flow going and I just gave the Reiki session, my energy with my chakras, they were all um, symmetrical. So, for instance, when I started the session, maybe I'd have like excess energy in my head. Maybe I'd have a smaller energy in my throat, a smaller energy in my root chakra. I'm kind of just going with what I just happened to be on an individual day, right? Or more likely basis for how my energy runs. And then I would open up and receive Reiki, universal energy to come through my body. And you feel great when you're giving a Reiki session. Like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, when you're
Yes.
doing a reading, you feel great because you are blending with something greater than yourself, and it's very healing and it's very loving. So you feel good afterwards. And then the machine showed that all my chakras were the same size.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I was extremely balanced after I gave the session.
That
Yeah. And
is
that happened.
incredible.
It was so cool. I know.
I'm wondering, do you feel like that with a lot of the sessions you do, or did that time, was it just like a random experience? Because I would imagine you would feel like that with pretty much all the sessions you do.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. Every session that I do, I feel better than before. And let's say I might, we're all human. I might not feel good coming in before. And, you know, after the session ends, I feel amazingly better. Like, I've come in with a headache, and every time I do a reading, the headache goes away. The only time the headache might not go away is if you're not deep enough in the energy. But once you're really like in the energy and you have a good connection and you're in flow, it completely goes away. So, and a lot of, I would imagine any psychic medium you talk to or healer, if they've ever been, had a runny nose or something, or sinus blockages, it goes away while you're actually in it.
That's
And so
so amazing.
it is. And after maybe 15 minutes after the session, you might revert back to the headache. You might revert back to the sinus, um, pressure, or it might be alleviated. It's pretty awesome.
I mean, I'm like envisioning almost like a I mean, this is kind of a weird image, but like a clogged, you know, toilet or whatever, in the pipes, it's clogged. And then when you are giving a session, it's like all of a sudden that unclogs and it's just a flow, a nice natural flow of energy. It's not like the energy isn't blocked, is basically what I'm saying.
Absolutely. You're
And then
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I just love discussions like this, and I love kind of going in like an in-depth route discussing all of this because it is pretty out there and it is, a lot to take in. Now, reading on your website, this is what fascinates me too. You're certified, I believe, right, in mental emotional release therapy. Now,
Oh yeah.
this is something that I think, can you imagine if everyone understood this and practiced it, how the world would be? I mean, it's amazing. But for those that don't know what that is, what is that? What is mental emotional release therapy? I mean, you can kind of glean it from the title, but since you're an expert in it, the mic is yours.
Oh, sure, sure. So, yeah, like mental it's MER and it's connected to NLP actually. So, I studied NLP with Dr. Matt James, and for anyone who doesn't know what NLP is, it's neuro linguistic programming. And so that has a very therapeutic side to it as well as a very real world application. So, you can use it to understand more about yourself, understand about like your conscious self, your subconscious self, why you do the things that you do. We're all made of patterns. And sometimes our patterns that go through our daily life, we're just go, why did we do this? Why, like I have a goal not to eat this. I have a goal to go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night. And Lord help me, I just can't do it. I can't, like my body
Mm-hmm.
wants to do something else. My brain has a different track. Like
Yep.
it's so simple. Why can't I do what I'm telling myself to do? And there's a reason behind that. And so you can actually reprogram your habits and behaviors based on how you make different associations within your subconscious mind. So NLP can be very therapeutic from that standpoint. It also can be very poignant with learning how the world communicates. So, how you communicate and how others communicate. So, that's going into body language, tonality, languaging. It's very, very helpful. And politicians use it, like heads of companies use it because they need to be seen in a certain light, or they need to have people actually rally to their cause. So, communication, education is actually really important for people who are leading companies or people. So, again, super fascinating. So, MRE is an extension off my NLP training. And actually, I don't use MRE a lot, but I can tell you what it is. I haven't been certified in it, but I don't use it because I used to do a lot of NLP and I would use it in my NLP. And then I actually backed away from NLP because I was like, I just want to focus on my energy work more. Like, it's so needed and I love it. And I could talk about the application about it and why it is so powerful. But I actually backed away from doing the sessions because I was like, I have too much on my plate. I can only focus on so much.
Right, of course.
I'm a Gemini ascendant, like sign, Gemini rising. So that's why I have my, hands in so many pots. But let me answer you really quick. So
I'm a
MR,
Gemini too, so I get that. My hands are all over the place here. So
yeah,
go Geminis! Yay!
oh, Geminis.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that explains like why we're like, oh, I want to learn about this
Oh
and this. So
man.
and so MER, excuse me, is because I think I said MRE at first.
It's all good.
MER is mental emotional release therapy. And so, have you ever heard of timeline therapy?
Yes.
Okay, it works with timeline therapy. And for those who don't understand timeline therapy or know about it, it's like a regression that you take yourself on various points of your life. And with how it's prompted, whether you're doing it yourself or whether you have a therapist or a practitioner guiding you, they will have you go to a specific memory or moment within your life and you'll like float down to it, or you'll just kind of observe that moment and you will associate or disassociate with it, but you'll experience the moment. And so, MER helps for healing, sometimes in traumatic or just general events in somebody's life to have a release, an emotional release behind a certain feeling, and to
Right.
help facilitate a different pattern with how someone associates with certain events in their life. And statistically, it has like an amazing like healing rate attached to it. That's why I was so excited for it. I just don't operate with it very much anymore. So I'm just honest. I don't personally do NLP anymore unless I'm working with actually mentoring a person, and I will take certain techniques and just be like, hey, let's do this. This could help you. But I don't exactly go, hey, I do this. I'm an NLP practitioner, an MER practitioner. Come see me for this service. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you on that. And I'm wondering if, some people like do it naturally without knowing that they're doing it. So like how I understand, the neuro linguistic programming side, it's changing your thoughts and behaviors, I guess, to fit a desired outcome, I guess, is how I understand, and that's how I understand it. So I mean, I'm thinking when with MER and NLP, did I say that right? Yeah. Neuro
So,
linguistic programming. How does it fit into like feedback therapy and even
yeah, sure.
hypnosis? Because I'm wondering
Exactly.
if it seems like they're all kind of correlated there.
They are correlated. So NLP is an extension that was created off of hypnosis. Its
Okay.
practices are different, but it goes back to some of the principles of hypnosis, because what happens with certain um, MER and NLP therapies, what you have to do when you're getting to the subconscious mind is you have someone close their eyes and you ask them questions, or you ask them to visualize things, and they have to change their state in order to associate. So you have to lead them. It's not that you're leading them into a trance, someone's joining you in an altered brain state where, yes, you're technically in a trance, but all you're doing is meditating and repeating back what you are experiencing within your visuals, your feelings, um, auditory memory. You're engaging someone's senses so they have a different response than whatever is just embedded and coded with what was on the fly when whatever happened to them. So there's a lot of
Okay.
prompts involved. Does that make
That
sense?
does.
There's scripts and there's prompts involved. And when there's not scripts and prompts involved, what you're doing is you're asking somebody a question and you're making them answer you in a way where they're not thinking about the question. So what you're doing is you're either meditating them almost in a way so they're relaxed and they're in a different state of flow, or you go, okay, what excites you? Just give me two things, right? And someone might say pineapples and blueberries. Okay, cool. Do you like pineapples or blueberries better? Pineapples. Do you like blueberries or pineapples better? Okay, give me some more things. Cherries, uh, you know, dragon fruit. Okay, would you say you like dragon fruit better than pineapple? And you just literally keep asking them things until they're just literally their subconscious brain is giving you answers, not their mental thoughts.
So
And so
yeah,
you
okay.
you start to understand people's drivers that they're not even aware about, and you start making certain um associations with their drivers for so they can actually change it, because you go, hey, what's really going on? If you were to ask that person what's really going on, why aren't you able to change, why are you having a problem, or where's the trauma, someone will tell you rationally where they think it is. But when you start doing these things like MER, when you start doing NLP or hypnosis, the subconscious brain comes up and just starts actually telling you what's going on. And then you can actually work with the healing.
Right, right. Okay. That's an excellent description of that. So if someone were to want to, let's say, get certified in it, how is that? Like what types of courses do you have to take? Because I think I
Oh,
read it
sure.
takes about like a month, or at least the site I read. I mean, I didn't have time to really, look at different sites, but I thought I read it
Yeah.
takes like around a month, I guess, if maybe you do it full time or something like that.
It's yeah, there's a lot of different courses for hypnosis, NLP. Um it depends on who's teaching it. Like for instance, like with me, I took like a I would say my total amount of time was 3 weeks, and there were very intensive long days. So for instance, I was
Hmm.
there from 8 a.m. to like 9 p.m. every day
Oh my
of the
gosh. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Mhm. very, very long days. And then you have to do like certification testing after that. So very involved, very long days. It depends on who your teacher is, but for a certain level of certification and NLP, it's gonna be longer than shorter. Yes.
Okay, so that and I'm sure there's different places where you can get the certification. I was just curious. These are such fascinating topics, and it's like I said earlier, how all these topics individually are interesting, but what's even more intriguing is how they fit together and how they kind of balance each other and complement each other, which is so fascinating. And then of course the Reiki as well. And so you're a Reiki master, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I teach it and I love it. Yeah.
So if what one question I have for you with Reiki, when should someone, I guess, not receive Reiki? Or can anyone receive it at any time? I ask this question. I have a lot of people that I know that do Reiki. So I like to ask them, like, should someone not get Reiki? Are there any limitations as to when people shouldn't get it or, you know?
So, Reiki in general is like this universal energy that compliments, balances. It really makes you feel good. And I would say the only time I wouldn't recommend Reiki is if someone's already doing way too much of it. Like like I've had people that want to do multiple sessions the same day. And it's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
It's like,
Overloaded.
yeah, your system is going to get overloaded and then it's going to like make you crash. It's like cramming down just
Mm-hmm.
like it, and so you're cramming it. Or there's people that, let's say they're not doing multiple sessions of Reiki, but they're like, oh, I just had like a reading yesterday and I did a sound bath, and it's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Again, sensory overload. Take it easy. Another thing that I think is good to talk about is if you want to have a session and you have like friends with you or family with you, I recommend the family like going out and having lunch or
Mm-hmm.
giving you space during the session, because I've literally had in the past like children come in for Reiki and they need their parents' consent, and you do something very gentle and short with them. It's not the same a session an adult would get. And I've literally said, "Hey, like, okay, I'm stepping away. I'm going to let your well, I wouldn't tell the parent right after the session. How can I put it? I would be like, I would let the child know very gently, like, okay, I'll be right back, right? And then I tell the parent, I go out of the room, and I tell the parent, like, okay, she's waking up. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Um, and I notice that the parent, at times, this has happened at times, they'll just go like, okay, well, it's over. I'm just gonna go on in and wake my kid up. And I'm just like, whoa, whoa.
Whoa. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
like, so here's the thing, like, I don't recommend it if someone's not gonna give you space. So if you're not in an environment like if you're doing it in your home, you need to have that home quiet. You need to have people supporting, um, giving you space so they will be quiet while you're doing that. Like, you can get jolted, you're like woken up, you can not fully relax, you can feel uncomfortable because there's too much distractions around you. I don't recommend Reiki if you're just kind of inviting someone over to do it and there's too much going on, or you don't have someone who's going to give you space, because it can be a very jolting experience if you're very deep and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, cool, that was awesome, I'm going to go out and party, or I'm going to go and see my friends and go to an environment where there's just overstimulus and I just did something to open up my energy. What happens is you're so open after Reiki that if you do too much or if there's too much going around you, you might feel not good. You might feel paranoid. You might feel very emotional. You might feel very uncomfortable. It's because energy is settling. You shouldn't kick up more energy. It's going to make
Right,
you
that
feel.
makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. That these are great points, and I always ask that question with if because I know so many people that, and I've been attuned to it. I don't practice it as much as I should, but giving it and receiving it, it's really a wonderful feeling. It really is, and the way you feel after, and I know when I've had it, it's like you feel rejuvenated, you feel um, not the opposite of fatigued, you just feel well rejuvenated. So it's really awesome. And I know tonight we kind of like jumped around with, going from, psychic mediumship to numerology to, chakras to numerology. I wanted to get it all in, but it all fits together. So
Yeah.
this has been such a great discussion. So where can people, I mean, you're on social media and all of that. So if people wanted to, follow you, like what are your socials, your website, give all that information out if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can come find me on my website at energeticsessions.com. That's where you can sign up for events and even see things about weekly what's going on. You can find me on the Psychic Hour with the radio show. Nicole's been a guest. We've had her on. And you can also find me on social media just under my name, Kelly Brickel. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So I'm very accessible.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for, taking the time to join me tonight. I learned a lot. I always learn something from these shows. You're incredible. Keep doing the work you're doing. Energeticsessions.com is your site. I've been to it. It's amazing. Your radio show is awesome as well. I love it. I love the title too, The Psychic Hour. That's just so, I love it. The Psychic Hour. It's awesome. So, anyways, thank you again for joining me tonight, Kelly. I hope you have a fantastic and safe 4th of July weekend. And that goes for all of you that are listening as well. I can't believe it's already going to be July. Wow. I mean, before you know it, it's going to be Christmas again. But hey, that's a whole nother discussion. So please have a wonderful and safe 4th of July. Let's see. Next week, I have Greg Koss coming on, I believe. Yes. And then on the 14th, Mike Ricksecker. The 21st, Lindsey Brown, and the 28th, Matthew Stapley as well. And then I just want to read something too that I found from Buddha. And I like this. He says, what you think you become, what you feel you attract, and what you imagine you create. So I thought that that was very fitting for tonight's episode. And then, of course, one last quote here that I love by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I just love this. Do not go where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Have a great night, great weekend, and we will see you next week. Good night, guys.
Thank you so much.